I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
You should be careful where you bounce because you never know what you will find. That's what I found out in this week's episode, CW Supergirl Season 5, Episode 12, Back from the Future, Part 2. We got this climax to last week's episode, and it was all of that. That's right. I am Tehran. I will be your host. Ryan is in the back. We are the dynamic duo. Ryan, what's up?
In the chair,
Thank
super
you
dog. Okay.
so much, Ryan. No more talking from Ryan. Ryan is going to be Computer Lad. You are Computer Lad from now on. That is who you are. If you don't know what Computer Lad is, it's obviously a reference to the Legion call sign of Winn, right before he decides to take back Toyman, because he's like, I'm going to take that name back. So many things happened this week. You're going to want to stay tuned as we discuss it all on this week's episode. CW Supergirl Season 5, Episode 12, Back from the Future, Part 2. Now, it's clearly just, we had Part 1 last week. Now we're getting Part 2. We get this climax, what happens, and we're going to break it down as thus. Computer Lad, Alex Danvers' problem solved in a way. On its own. No disruptions or technical difficulties. When someone asks you a question like that, just know it's foreshadowing something horribly wrong. Toyman's code. All of us want to know, who doesn't talk about Premax theory of the mind at 5 years old or whatever. Lexo suit. Leroy Jenkins. Yes, we get a Leroy Jenkins reference. What's that reference to? I will let you know. Winn for the win. Winn goes inside the computer and takes on Winn and goes for the win with the help of his dad. Aww. Obsidian Platinum. Lex's big brother, Gemma Cooper. Kara and William. That Valentine's Day connection almost happened. And of course, the Mr. Metzbelek drop at the end. Am I saying it wrong? Most likely, but does anyone know how to say it? No, they don't. News and gossip, our Supergirl special segment where we choose a Supergirl who is changing the world every day. This week's Supergirl, Cynthia Erivo. You may know her from the Harriet movie, or at least from her amazing Oscar performance. And of course, some wonderful predictions going into next week's episode. Overall, this episode was definitely the climactic end to last week's setup of Toyman. Was it as climactic as I wanted it to be? The answer is no. However, something that was very significant in this episode was the fact that so many things are set up for future episodes. Specifically, Alex Danvers leaving the DEO. Here we have the head of the DEO is now Brainy. That especially parlaying with his connection to what's going on with Lex. We also have Winn going into the future, but taking the name Toyman, something that may spill over into the Legion. So that's a different angle that we have not seen. Taking that name back, knowing it's always haunted him, and now it's his own because Computer Lad just wasn't doing it. We also get Lena making her way into Obsidian Platinum, even though we know she was the one responsible for sabotaging Andrea. But we know that she's now made her way in, getting her closer to her non-Nucere algorithm. Lex, being the big brother, is the one who helped, bringing Gemma Cooper into the fold. Lex makes the statement, Gemma's going to be a good friend for the foreseeable future. And then, boom, mic drop. Gemma Cooper, the board member, one of Leviathan. These are all strings that once you tug and pull, they are going to create a woven story that we are looking for as we enter the second part of this season of Supergirl. So we have a lot of things that came out of this episode. Was the specific toy maker storyline the most powerful? Was it as deafening as it was promised? No, actually last week I felt there was way more of a threat from Toymaker than there was this week, simply because Toymaker never even makes it out of the DEO in this one. Definitely, we had a lot more death and destruction last week. We did get some cool things this week. Let's not overlook seeing Lexo suits and that split. We got a couple Matrix moments, and there's this new thing in DC where we keep going into computers, into minds. I've seen this on several different avenues. Something very similar happened on Harley Quinn, where we keep going into the minds and this haunted mind of each character. This situation this week was very similar. We went into the mind, which is that computer world where we got Winn versus Winn, and we get Winn's resolution, at least in some part, with his father, the father that created the computer lad we know today. So we get a lot of these tidbits. The storyline, the main storyline, was not as strong as it should have been, could have been, or would have been had they simply focused on that. However, all these side stories, these secondary stories, are all what are going to lead us into this season's end, which I can't imagine how we're going to get there or where we're actually going, because there's so many things that are going on. This whole new one dimension, one universe concept is a little bit confusing still. However, it's clearly going to play, especially we see in the beginnings of Mr. Mitsaplik for next week. That's going to be something that we're going to have to question even. So where does this season go? This episode showed us we have no idea. And that's why it was so exciting. Let's break down the episode and start off with Computer Lad. Computer Lad, of course, changing into Toyman by the end. Computer Lad was a main protagonist, as we see Winn from the future. Someone we've always liked. We liked Winn in season 1 and season 2 of Supergirl. We get that into the crossover into Legions. Now we get him back at least for 2 episodes, and of course he brings Winn's personality to life. It's always fun to have Winn. Winn is in many ways the antithesis to Brainy, and especially this Brainy that we're getting, this logical, actual brainiac character. Not as fun, not as humorous, not as comic relief as the Brainy we've come to know. However, Winn, if you remember when Winn was on his way out and Brainy was in his way in, that was the replacement. And in this episode, we get a lot of that because Winn did lead for the empathetic kind, and yet there were times where he was extremely comical. The whole, what do you think when I was gonna go into fights? And I was like, Computer Lad, I hated that name. And yes, that name is clearly not the best of names. Computer Lad, I was just thinking, like, we had all these like lasso and then all of a sudden it's Computer Lad. Lad's not even like it's not even like, hey, this is Computer Man, it's Computer Lad. It's definitely a sidekick name. So I'm glad that Winn had the opportunity to change his name. Now, the whole protagonism in this specific episode relays with Winn and having to battle Winn, but also his father. Remember, last week we saw Toymaker Winn Part 2, the doppelganger, upload himself into the computer. We didn't realize that the laptop was going to be taken back to DEO, and therefore it was going to infect the DEO system with the hopes of going into the World Wide Web. That could be detrimental, and of course, as Brainy put it, it'd be 100% death for everyone, right? I don't know where these percentages come up with. 92.6451%. I love when Brainy has all these percentages when it comes to any type of theory of what may or may not occur. So we get Winn 2.0. It's very hard to differentiate between Toymaker, Toyman, toy person. However, infecting the DEO computer, and that's where we get Lex on the phone calling Brainy, getting an update, and then saying, hey, have you had any disruptions or technical difficulties? And of course Brainy says no, with questioning, like, should we have? And immediately after the phone call, drone strikes on Brainy, letting us know that yes, Winn did successfully upload himself into the computer and now has taken over all the tech at the DEO, which could be extremely deadly. I mean, the DEO has some of the most powerful alien tech in the entire universe, all confound to one place. Here you have everything from Lexosuits to disruptive units. These are all things in one place, and we do see actually Winn 2.0 taking over the Lexosuits. So that unfortunately is the main thing that was supposed to go on. It wasn't as strong. There didn't seem to be such a strong perceived threat. No one really got hurt. It didn't turn up. It could have. They used a lot of special effects on this week's episode, but none of them really stood out besides the Lexosuits. Now, the Lexosuits were very fun, amazing. It's always fun to see the Lexosuits, and especially the one where when Alex shot the bullet and the Lexosuit dispersed and then came back together. Amazing fun. The toy monkeys, who cares? I don't know why we're so afraid of toy monkeys. These toy monkeys, I get it, they explode. I just want to be like, hey, Supergirl, you're pretty much invulnerable. Why are you worried about these toy monkeys so much? Lexosuit, that's what you should be worried about. They have kryptonite. They are kryptonite-powered Lexosuits. That's what you should be afraid of. Computer Lad, Winn, goes into the computer and has to fight his own doppelganger. In this fight, the fight is the revelation that you're in this computer world, a la Lawnmower Man. If that's a very old movie, but you're into the computer and now you're fighting it. It's got a lot of Matrix similarities. You can control the world. It's not real. And of course, the person that allows Winn to realize this is his father. Now, Season 1, Season 2, we know that Winn has a lot of unresolved issues with his father. Toyman was a supervillain whose sole purpose seemed to just disrupt everyone's natural way of life. Psychopath. Winn did everything in his power and his being in order to basically rectify the crimes of his father and tried to separate himself from that, which was why in Season 1, when we get the revelation that Winn is Toyman's son, that was a big storyline. So here we get Winn's father coming alive in the computer, 80% of them at least, and saying, hey, Winn, I want to help you. Winn, of course, does not trust his father. He goes into the computer world, sees his father encapsulated because he can't get out of this room, and Winn has to let him out, and he's reluctant to do so because he can't trust his father. And yet we keep seeing his father push the boundary, telling him to take the leap of faith. It was supposed to be very heartwarming. I don't know if I have a heart, so I don't know if it would ever get warmed, but it was supposed to be a reunion that made us feel that there was a conclusion or a resolution between the two. I don't feel like the stakes were as high. However, it was nice to see that Winn's father was actually kept to his word. I kept waiting for his father to turn on him. I kept waiting for his father to upload himself and stay immortal. I kept waiting for his father because he pressed so hard. I mean, I just felt like he was pressing so hard to get out. I wouldn't have trusted the guy. Like, wait, hey man, calm down. He was just so inspiring, and every word he was like, no, I'm different, Winn. You're the best part of me. We're nothing alike. All these things. So it actually made me think that there was something sinister behind his words as well. However, we didn't see that. We see that Winn was therefore able to upload the code inside the mainframe and therefore eradicating both Winn 2.0 and his father. And there was that moment where he was like, watching his father fade, and Winn felt some type of way, even though the whole time it felt like all Winn wanted to do was have his father fade away throughout the years. Here we're seeing an actual tangible, visible version of that, and Winn is very reluctant to see his father go. So that's a touching moment that allowed us to get that conclusion. At least in some type of way, we have a closure with those two, and hopefully it goes into the future, especially as Computer Lad has changed his name. Let's see how much that stays. We also get this nod to an Alex, quote unquote, Danvers problem. Alex Danvers being a problem, of course. Alex is very concerned about Lex, is not trusting of Lex. Basically, Lex is to Alex as Winn's is to his father, except with much more and more concrete reason. Lex Luthor is Lex Luthor. Alex Danvers, not trusting of Lex, basically encrypts the computer with spyware. Lex has found it, is doing everything to undermine Lex, wants to know what Lex is doing, smiling in Lex's face, hates the fact that she has to do that because she knows that Lex has a hidden agenda. She just doesn't know what it is. And of course, given the history of who Lex Luthor is, it will always be seen and be deemed as sinister. Even us, as the audience, watching it unfold, we're still thinking Lex is in this for some sinister reason. There has to be something evil about this plan. Sure, we see that he, at least on the surface, is trying to fight Leviathan. However, what we really think is Lex is trying to fight Leviathan so he can become Leviathan. That's really what we're thinking. Lena thinks it, we think it, Alex thinks it, everyone thinks it except for Brainy. Brainy, who's helping Lex. And remember, Winn actually knows about Brainy, but no one else on the team does. That's a very scary situation for us to think that here we have Brainy working against the DEO in his own way because he's helping Lex, but for a greater good, or at least a greater perceived good. But something that we realize about Lex, and it's always apparent as Brainy is a 10th level intellect, honestly, Lex is an 11th level because he's always 1 or 2 or 3 steps ahead of even Brainy. The way he theorizes about toy maker Winn 2.0 going into the code and doing wreaking havoc, that was a step Lex wasn't sure. Lex wasn't controlling Toymaker. He just wanted this code, and so he released Toymaker knowing that this would be the ultimate onset, and then therefore he would be able to get this code for his own purpose because all he feels that Leviathan has over him is that immortality, and being uploaded into mainframe techware and therefore from hardware into software would make Lex as immortal, if not more so. And that is why it always seems dangerous. Lex can never just be upfront. Lex can never just tell you what it is and this is what the problem is and we have to figure it out. Supergirl is a very upfront, let's do this. This is how we're going to solve this problem. We're going to punch the toy monkey in the face. And Lex has 10 plans, 15 chess moves ahead, and checkmate. You have no idea you were even playing the game. And that's how Lex works. So whenever you hear the lines, no disruptions or technical difficulties, know that something bad's about to happen. And whenever Alex Danvers becomes a problem, know that you're probably the problem because Alex clearly has the best of intentions and wants to save the world. Maybe if Lex actually told them what was going on, they could all work together to solve this problem instead of having a hidden agenda, instead of working behind the scenes to make this a situation, because that's the conflict we see with Alex and Brainy. Jumping into that storyline, Alex finds that Brainy has deleted the spyware that Alex had uploaded and questions Brainy. And Brainy says, I did this to protect you, which is partly true. He says, Lex would have found it out and would have went after you, which is also partly true. Part of the truth, Brainy, is still a lie. You are lying to your team. Communication, guys. Let's all talk. Let's figure this out. We are a team. We can figure out what is going on. We can decide what's the next step, what's the best step, especially when your leader in this is Lex Luthor. We should really think about, or at least rethink, what we're really doing. I hope Brainy is right and he knows what he's doing and he's handling this and got this down, because if not, this is going to be the biggest blowout. We've seen how secrets have destroyed. Kara and Lena are still going through this secret situation, and that's the unfurling of their friendship. And what's going on specifically with Lena, her seemingly beneficial yet superficially sinister plan is something that we see non-Nuceri specifically because of this blowout of keeping secrets. So Brainy, if there's anything we should learn from, it's keeping secrets is not good. There is nothing that is helpful in this, especially when the secret affects everybody. I hope Brainy figures that out. As we talk about secrets, I hope all of you at home don't keep this a secret, because here at AfterBuzz, and especially on the shows that I'm hosting, we love each and every one of you. You are, if not as much, more so part of this panel than all of us in the studio. Thank you so much for your comments, your theories, your when we ship the polls that you do going on Twitter. What's that Twitter, Ryan?
At Tehran Supergirl After Show.
I don't run it, but someone does. Ryan runs it. So definitely, we appreciate everything you do. Like, share, subscribe, spread the word, tell your friends. Let us know what you think. If you're listening to us on iTunes, give us that 5 stars we so greatly deserve. And thank you for helping us be the ESPN of TV talk. The more you know. So, back to CW Supergirl. Back from the Future Part 2. Let's get into the meat. Toyman's code is what Lex needs because he wants to be immortal. This code is responsible for several things happening. We get these Lexo suits. They're very cool. We get the Leroy Jenkins call. Brainy is the brightest, most obnoxious thing in the room, and so the Lexo suits will concentrate on him. That was very fun to see. Very Matrix X, the lasers shooting around, all these things. Winn goes for the win, of course. Winn beats the other Winn, and we get that disruption. So now we're done with this storyline. Here we get another one going. Obsidian Platinum. Andrea Rojas has a toxic shock reaction to what's going on with Obsidian. The biolink is not working. Who comes to the rescue? Lena has the plan. Oh, we happen to be developing this tech for the Pentagon. They dropped out. I can offer it to you. Andrea refuses basically because of their past relationship. So now it's good to see that Lex becomes the big brother, steps in, says, I can help you, asks for permission, which already should be a warning sign, goes in, basically harks on Gemma Cooper, finds out about her, where she is. She's on the board. Gemma, of course, being Andrea's mentor, board member of Obsidian, goes in, basically offers the tech to Gemma, knowing Gemma will take it since there is no emotional distraction there, making Andrea, basically talks to Andrea, making her take Lena up on her offer. Of course, we find that Lena's the one who sabotaged it in the first place. The biolink's not working. Lena knows that she needs to get in. She needs this Q-wave technology for her non-Nuceri, and that's how it works. Lex goes into Lena, and this is what I mean with stuff, these strings that were unraveling. Lex, at the end, if you saw the computer scene where he's on the phone and then in the computer, that's a nod to something. Lena's surprised, saying, I had this whole room shielded. Lex bypasses it effortlessly. That's going to be something that plays into the future. That's foreshadowing something for sure. And now we see that Gemma Cooper, the seemingly more than mild manner board member, is actually Gemma Cooper, member of Leviathan, and says, we have the Luthors exactly where we want them. Boom. That might have been the climax that we didn't want, but the one we deserved. That's the one where it actually means something. We have the Luthors exactly where we want them. Very, very telling of how this season is going to play out. Leviathan is aware of the Luthors. Leviathan is seemingly in control of the Luthors. Leviathan is planning this, and they're playing a chess game that Lex doesn't know he's playing. What's up, Lex? How's it feel? How you like them apples? Leroy Jenkins that. Of course, when I give that Leroy Jenkins is a nod to the word that's described to use basically a person or a thing that causes everything to go wrong for everyone else in some extraordinary fashion. So that's where the Leroy Jenkins comes in. Lastly, we get Kara and William and Kara have this moment at karaoke. They harmonize their guitaring and air keyboarding and all of that great stuff. And of course, we see sparks. Kara admits she likes Winn. Winn clearly likes Kara. William clearly likes Kara. Winn tells Kara, hey, you should go for it. William asks Kara out on a date. Winn messes it up in the first one, gives her the advice to go for it. Kara is reluctant to do so because she says, I don't want to start a relationship off with a lie. We saw what happened with Lena. Guys, you kind of need to get over that. But I don't want to start off a relationship with a lie. And of course, William asks her out. She kind of is saying yes. She wants to say yes, goes in. The lie comes back up first as William says, I got this for your mima, your grandma, your mama, me mama. And there is no grandma. And Kara rejects William in superb fashion. It made me feel like that must be how Ryan's life is, where the girl just rejects him, and she's just like, I don't feel that way about you.
Right.
That was crushing. That was crushing to see because,
Why?
and then William says, I'm so sorry, I misread the situation. Clearly he hadn't, but it's just such an embarrassing moment. It's so hurtful. It's just watching him just like put it all out there and then watching him get rejected. It's always a sad thing to see unrequited love. That's always a thing. So that's how it plays out. Kara is having the heart-to-heart, the eat, pray, love moment with her sister, Alex. They're talking about it. Alex has quit the DEO. Alex has resigned. So now we've taken care of the Alex Danvers problem. Possibly going to be working with John. That seems to be the move there. And who knocks on the door? Mr. Mitspolik. And that is going to be next week. Cannot wait, because when Mr. Mitspolik shows up, you have no idea what's going to go on. This is the creature that can bend the universe at his will. So let's get into some news and gossip, shall we?
AfterBuzz TV News.
That's right. We have some news and gossip as Digital Spy goes in and says that Supergirl confirms returning characters for a 100th episode. This episode was a huge one. We're going to get a lot of players coming in. We're going to get Chris Wood's bearded Mon-El making the biggest splash. Like, that's a huge comeback. Apparently we're gonna see, of course, Mr. Mitspolik. We're gonna see him, we know this, but we're possibly gonna see also we're gonna see Rain, if you remember, Annabelle Samantha Arias for the 100th episode. These are all huge reoccurrences of people that we've been looking forward to or missing for sure. So it's great to see that this is going to be one of the biggest episodes yet. We're going to get a lot of players. So can't wait for this to happen. Our special segment, Supergirl, where we pick a Supergirl in the world and discuss them and how they're changing lives. This week's Supergirl is going to be Cynthia Erivo. I would love to say Cynthia's full name. However, her two middle names are, it seems like Onya de Manusu China Sukuo Erivo. She is an English actress, singer, and songwriter, as we saw her perform at the Oscars. Ryan, you said that performance was amazing, yes?
Oh, heartbreakingly great.
Yeah. What was heartbreaking was the fact that she did not win for Harriet. Of course, she did earn a nomination for Academy Award, a Golden Globe, and a Screen Actors Guild Award for portraying Harriet Tubman, which in today's time and day and age is a huge role to portray. It's very aware. Erivo, of course, was one of the few people of color and one of the few women just nominated for things this year. That was a subject that came up. Even Ricky Gervais brought that up a couple times at the Golden Globes. If you want to know about Erivo, she was born to Nigerian parents in Stockwell, which is basically South London. Her mother's a nurse, and then she wanted to get into music psychology and do these things, and yet she had this love and trained at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. So she's a trained actor, which is the style. I feel like the British actors just go through these Royal Academy trainings. So she's a true thespian who's done who's done theater work for the majority of her career, getting into film basically in 2018 with Widows and then Bad Times at the El Royale. Of course, Harriet, which made a lot of moves, and she has movies in the work. But what makes her interesting is that not only does she have a podcast where she co-produces it with the lead voice actor, her friend from Cocodile Media, but she also is a person who is always talking about the empowerment of women of color in the media. It's something that is clearly a part of who she is, and she is a constant reminder of the work. She talks about the work ethic. She helps other women of color get these roles. She's always, every interview, that's what she heralds. She's a lead voice in many of these movements, and that's why it's important to have a person who's on this caliber being nominated for Academy Awards and speaking and using her platform to elevate a cause that's not only near and dear to her heart, but to everyone. And it should be this concept that we constantly see as feminism. Sometimes people see us as an attack, especially I've felt like a lot of men think of feminism as an attack, and to them all I can say is, to the privileged, equality will always feel like oppression. So thank you, Cynthia Erivo, for allowing us to understand and helping us be a better world. Thank you so much. Always good to see. Let's jump into some predictions, shall we?
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Yes, as we're going into this, I would love to predict what Mr. Mxyzptlk is going to do. However, none of us know. What it seems like is going to happen from the preview is that Mr. Mxyzptlk is going to give Kara the option of going back and basically fixing the situation with Lena. I do not think that's going to happen. I think that Kara's eventually going to do exactly what she did. Whenever it's Mr. Mxyzptlk and he gives you what seems to be a great option, it's one of those Christmas Carol situations where the ghosts from the past, the present, and the future show you that the world would be irrevocably different if you weren't the way you are, and that your choices basically led to what is the best possible outcome of all possible futures. So that's where I think the concern is going to go, and I believe that's going to be how it plays out. I do think we're going to get a lot of great cast sightings, of course, and we're going to get an amazing storyline. It's always fun to see Mr. Mxyzptlk anytime in any version across the super line in the world. So it's good to see him. So I'm sure we're going to get a lot of surprises. Cannot wait for next week's episode. Until then, if you cannot wait to find me, just make sure to find me at I Am Tehran all across the board. And of course, hosting and paneling on a slew of other AfterBuzz after shows, because all of your favorite TV shows are my favorite TV shows too. Ryan, where can people find you?
You can find me at Ryan Nilsen, NILSCN _ on Instagram, trying to get those numbers up.
And where else can we find you, Ryan?
Of course, Thursdays, Popcorn Talk, 4 p.m. for Star Wars news.
I actually meant the Supergirl Twitter.
And at Supergirl Tehran After Show, or sorry, Tehran Supergirl After Show. Follow that, please.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate you, and I appreciate all of you. Come back next week as we talk more Supergirl, CW Supergirl Season 5. Until then, up, and away.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.